Cool. Okie dokie. Can everybody see my screen? Give me a thumbs up if you can. I can't see that many people, but perfect. Yep. Thank you. Okay, so now that I'm sharing my screen, I actually can't see the chat, but if you have any questions as we go through, feel free to pop them in the chat box, and a member of staff will answer them if they can. Otherwise, we'll have points throughout tonight when we'll be able to stop and answer your questions. So yeah, welcome to the Scottish Cycling Coach Education Consultation and Information webinar. Tonight, this is kind of hosted as a bit of a joint venture between the coach education and the club development team. So we will start off with a wee agenda for the night and just some housekeeping. Please keep yourself on mute if you're not speaking, and if you would like to speak at all, use the raise a hand function. Again, because I can't see very much, Fraser is going to let me know who has got their hand up and who will invite you to speak if you've got something to say. As I said, use the chat function to ask questions if you want. We also have quite a large number of people on the call tonight. I'm going to try and keep this to an hour if possible, so please just be aware when you're speaking that we would quite like, if everybody wants to contribute tonight, we would like to give everybody the opportunity to do that. So if you can, keep answers and feedback as concise as possible, although I know we've got various bits of detail to get into. So yeah, the agenda for tonight, we're just going to go through a couple of introductions in a minute with all the staff on the call. We'll do an update on the new British Cycling Coach Education Framework. We'll do an update on the Sport Scotland Coach Education Subsidy. Then there'll be an opportunity to feedback on the coach education calendar for this year and what we want to do for next year. We'll go through some next steps, and then we'll do kind of any remaining questions at the end of the night. But hopefully by that point you won't have any, so we'll see what we get to. So yeah, as I said, we've got quite a few members of staff on the call tonight, so I'm just going to do a quick whip round, and if they can give a wee wave. I actually don't know how many you'll be able to see while I'm sharing the presentation, but we'll go around anyway. As you'll be able to see on the screen as well, I have said, please can you comment in the chat which club that you are from tonight. If you are from a club, just so we can kind of keep track of who's here and know kind of where this information is getting out to, that would be really helpful, thanks. So yeah, my name's Maddie Watson. I feel like I've met quite a lot of you virtually and in person already, but maybe some new faces. I'm the workforce officer, and I sit between the coach education and the events team, and I primarily look after our coaches and our officials and volunteers. So you'll see I've put all our contact details up there on the screen tonight, so feel free to take a picture or things like that. Also from the coach education team, I'm joined by Craig McCulloch, who is our coach developer. And then from the club development team, we have Ewan MacArthur, who's CDC Western Grampian, Kate Jackson, CDC East, Central and Southwest. Well, I should also say CDC stands for Club Development Coordinator, just in case. We've got Ruth Wright, who is CDC Teesside and Fife, Neil Wilson, CDC North. We have Julie Erskine, who you'll probably know as our previous events manager. Julie is now back with us as Club Development Manager for Diversity and Growth. Not with us on the call tonight is Jamie Taylor. He's our other new Club Development Manager, looking after children and young people. We also have Fraser Johnson, who's our project lead for Cycling World Championships and Club Development, and Keith Stalker, who, among many roles, is one of our coach education tutors. So we're in good company tonight, lots of staff, lots of knowledge. So as I say, any questions, fire them into the chat, and hopefully somebody will be able to answer your questions. Okay, so The first update tonight is on the British Cycling Coach Education Framework. So as many of you will probably know, but some might not know, British Cycling set out in the past kind of year or so to develop a new framework for our coach education courses. The first stage of this was a UK-wide consultation. They came up to Scotland actually during the Track Nations earlier this year to do a consultation, which some of you might have been at. So this consultation is now pretty much finished. All the data has been collated and analysed, and they're now in the final stages of developing the new coach education, and it will be piloted very soon with our tutors and members of the coaching community. The new framework, we currently don't know a huge amount about, but we are kind of learning as we go along. But basically it's intended to better meet the needs of the coaches across the cycling landscape, clubs, communities, different disciplines for kind of different ability groups. So as it says there, provide qualifications that reflect coaching domains. That kind of covers all the above. This will hopefully allow greater flexibility for learners, because we know at the moment that it can be quite time consuming for a lot of learners, particularly with various add-ons such as CWPS and first aid and things. And hopefully this new framework will align more with British Cycling and Scottish Cycling continuous personal development offerings. So that's kind of where we're up to at the moment. The timelines proposed by British Cycling is that we're going to have a phased launch from January next year. During this time, it is likely that we will have courses from the old framework going on at the same time, and then the new framework will be launched fully in April next year as well. So the current qualifications, the current framework that we have and that we've been working with on the past few years, these will still be valid. You'll still essentially have a similar qualification. If you do the old framework course in the next few months, it'll still be valid. So there's absolutely no issues with that. What we're going to do for next year, for the first half of the year, is schedule courses under the current framework with possibly some of the new framework, depending on what time they're kind of launched. And then from June onwards, we'll hopefully launch into the new framework fully. BC are providing us with updates on this all the time. And as we get those updates, we will also share them with our clubs and community, because we know that being kept in the loop on this is extremely important to you guys. And we want to take you along for this journey into a new coach education framework. So I'll maybe just pause there, and if anybody's got any questions on that at the moment, I'll take those just now. As I say, I can't see the chat or anybody, so Fraser, I'm relying on you for this one. I'm going to take the silence as no questions.
Yeah, no hands up as far as I can see, Maddie.
Okay, perfect. Great. Okay, then we will move on to the next update, which is on the Sport Scotland Coach Education Subsidy. So for those that have maybe not used this in the past, this is the funding that we get from Sport Scotland, our governing body, and which goes on coach education qualifications, kind of all the way through. Applications for the old process actually finished on the 31st of August. So if anybody's been on the Sport Scotland website in the past couple of weeks, you will see that you can no longer make an application through the Sport Scotland website. This is because applications are now going to be made directly to governing bodies, so directly to us at Scottish Cycling. This is a really positive change because it will allow shorter turnaround times in refunding the subsidy to learners, because that's feedback we've had in the past, that previously we've refunded the subsidies at the end of each financial quarter, and we know it's quite a lot of money to fork out of your own pocket, and that can be quite a long time to wait to get that back. So hopefully that will reduce that time, which is really good. So applications will be open as normal to all learners until March 2023, so the end of this financial year. That will just be applications directly to us, and we'll kind of manage that whole process very similarly to the way it's been done at the moment, but without that lag time, as I say, for getting the refund. Also, any applications that have been made up till the 31st of August, they all stand, they're all completely fine, and I'll probably be in touch actually quite soon to get those refunded to you soon anyway. From April 2023 onwards, subsidies will be available using a more targeted and inclusive approach to support the growth and diversity of our coaching workforce. So we're not 100% sure what that's going to look like yet, but that's something that we are going to be working on in the next few weeks, couple of months, and that will be communicated way out in advance of that April 2023 date. So you'll have plenty of notice of that. But as I say, in the meantime, subsidies are available as normal, available to everyone. And to be honest, in the time I've been in this role, I've never known someone to not be awarded the subsidy. So that's something we're hoping to continue at the moment. And the British cycling bursaries for women and young coaches, they are also still available as normal, and won't be changing in the near future. So our funding is still very much in place, and we're just hoping to make it a little bit more targeted to hopefully help those that face the largest barriers to getting into coaching. So just on that, I'll pause again if anybody's got any questions on the subsidy.
Hands up from after Maddie.
Hi, Maddie. Yeah, just one question. That assuming my audio actually works. The bursaries from Scottish Cycling. What's the process to actually apply for those?
Now the process will be, it'll just be a simple application form, which will probably be online. And if you just send that into our kind of general coach education email address, myself and the coach education team will assess that, and we'll get back to you with a decision. What will then happen is we still have a little bit of fine-tuning to do about when the funding will actually be awarded, because previously we've waited until the learner's attendance has actually been confirmed on the course, just to deter dropouts, because sometimes in the past we have had situations where people have been awarded the funding and then not turned up to the course. But we also know that it's a barrier for people to pay the money up front in the beginning to then have it refunded later. So we're looking at possibly discounting the initial fee to begin with, kind of in a similar way that the bursaries do. So that's something to be ironed out very soon, but that's kind of the overview of the process for the next few months.
Okay, so if for instance next week somebody wanted to apply, do we just drop you an email and you'll talk us through the process? Is that the easiest way to do it?
Yeah,
okay,
pretty much. It'll all come through me, so yeah, feel free to get in touch anytime.
Okay, thank you.
So should answer, Maddie. Andrea has got her hand up as well.
Hi, yes, it's just a quick question. I actually started my level 3 course on the 24th of June, and I actually did miss the deadline for applying through Sports Scotland. Is it too late for me to apply for funding for the level 3?
I'm not sure is the answer to that one, Andrea, but if you drop me an email with that, I will contact Sports Scotland and find out for you, because previously we've had the applications need to be made before the course begins, but now that we're taking this process in-house a little bit, that might be something that we can look at and be more flexible with. So yeah, drop me an email and I'll see what I can do about that one.
That's grand, thank you.
No more hands, Maddie.
No more questions. Perfect. Okie dokie then. That was nice and quick. So we will move on then to the bit which I imagine many of you are here for, and that's our consultation. So hopefully earlier this week you will have all received the review of our calendar this year, the one that we've just nearly finished. Within that, there was lots of figures about the courses we filled, the courses we didn't fill, the courses that we cancelled, and kind of where they were. So kind of given that review, basically what we would like to know tonight is, what do you think worked this year? What was really good? What maybe didn't work so well? Maybe some of the courses that were cancelled. You know, does anybody have any kind of thoughts around that and how we can stop that happening next year? Other things to consider are gaps in the calendar, you know, spread of levels. We've had some feedback already this year that the calendar was a little bit front loaded to the start of the year. And then that made it difficult to kind of get onto some of the higher level courses later in the year if you'd missed a level 1, for example. Timings of courses around school holidays, school exams, the discipline seasons. So, you know, this year we tried, for example, we tried to have a cyclocross DSU course before the cyclocross season, but we didn't have enough interest. So that was one of the courses that we cancelled. And also maybe a little bit more about your own club's aspirations. You know, if anybody is really keen to progress coaches through those discipline specific units, now is the time to let us know so we can kind of plan around that. So quite a lot to get in here, but we will just go one at a time. I will be noting down everything you say, so please bear with me. And again, I will lean on Fraser here to let me know who would like to contribute first.
Okay, Alistair's got his hand up, man.
Yeah, so it's a Northern Irish tradition that you need somebody to break the ice, and preferably somebody who you can't understand. No, so in terms of things that worked well, Maddie, I think the thing that's worked best for us is, I mean, over in Edinburgh, we had a need to grow a number of new coaches to support our Go Ride fairly quickly, and by the time you know, we'd got volunteers potentially being lined up, we'd missed most of the coaches, and the ability to work with yourself to get a bespoke course set up in October, that's worked really, really well for us so far. Obviously, we haven't done the course yet, and everybody hasn't come out and thrown up their hands and said it's you know, whatever. But to date, that the flexibility to do that has been really, really helpful. So I'd like to just kind of highlight that as a positive.
That's good to know. Thanks, Alistair.
I think Ash was next. Maddie?
Yeah, it was just from IPNCC. Like Colin was saying, that we would really like some more of the level 1 courses available, because I think looking at it, we did have level 1 in Aberdeen, but it was like full. So if we can perhaps, you know, more of them just to get people started, because for a lot of people, 5 days, or, you know, like the level 2 course, it's just a bit much to undertake, especially for maybe some of the folk that are younger that want to get into coaching.
Yeah, of course. And just to follow up on that, Ash, can I ask, do you think that actually, the courses that we've had in the Northeast this year have been Knockburn Loch, do you think that's the best place for them? Because we've considered maybe having them a little bit further south, like Dundee maybe, or do you think they need to be more kind of Aberdeen area?
I would say Knockburn Loch would be, yeah, I think that is good, because it is still, for Aberdeenshire, you know, huge, and we're quite far from there. So yeah, I think any further might put people off. I think you'd still fill them at Knockburn Loch. Okay,
that's helpful to know, thanks.
I think Rachel Halifax was next. If she can find the unmute button.
Couldn't find the mute button. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yep. Get on with Rachel.
Good, cool. Just some feedback from us, and I know that I've raised this with Fraser before, is that we've had a lot of youth coaches going through training. One of the issues we've had is actually asking them to have to pay up front and reimburse them, we don't feel, particularly with youth coaches, that's an appropriate mechanism, particularly as the club will be paying for it, and bursaries as well. In the past, well, probably several years ago, we used to be able to invoice the club directly, because we don't have a club credit card, so we don't have a means of actually performing the payment, and we don't want a club credit card. So we'd like some of the mechanisms to be able to manage the youth coaches. And the other thing is, we do actually have enough coaches, hopefully, to do a bespoke level 2 course, which I'll contact Maddie about. We've got an awful lot who are waiting to go on level 2.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks, Rachel. So, yeah, it's a really good point, and it's feedback we hear a lot. Part of the reason that we stopped providing invoices for clubs is the time that that it took for some of the invoices to be paid, which I know it's kind of one of those things that it happens once and it kind of spoils it for the rest. But that's kind of the reasoning behind that. But yeah, this is feedback that we've heard from a couple of clubs, and you're absolutely right. For young coaches in particular, it's a lot of money to put up front. So hopefully when, well, with the bursaries and then a different approach to the subsidies, that will take a lot of pressure off of that. But again, as I said, that's something we need to iron out. But yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, I think next thought was Kath Fraser. Hi, Kath.
Hello. I'm just wanting to follow on from Ethan, and it's great to hear that we're all trying to get youth coaches on board, and we're the same at Deeside Thistle, trying to get, working with our partners in the region, with Ethan and Grampian Tigers. We'd be really keen to look at level 1 options to get junior coaches through that pathway, and perhaps for attendance, working on that kind of bespoke dates, and trying to get something that works for the majority, and that flexibility would be really good.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thanks, Kath. What do you think with the majority of the young coaches you have, are they in that 14 to kind of 21 bracket? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
One thing that they do down south of the border is they'll have complete flying start courses, so the bursary for young people, and I believe that can be paid in a different way. So that's maybe something I'll need to find out a bit more from our colleagues at BC, because if it is a complete course of young people, that can actually be more straightforward to set up and kind of easier for everyone. So that's definitely something that we can look at, well, in any area, but certainly in the northeast. Thanks.
Okay, thanks.
Cheers, Kath. Next thought, Mr. Stocker.
I'll be brief, don't worry. I won't take all the rest of the evening. Hi, everybody. I've got 2 points, really. They're both kind of requests. The first one comes off the back of what Ash said, around the discussion of locations for courses. I'm always keen to explore new venues for delivering of courses. So if you've got a good location, then let Maddie and the rest of the team at Scottish Cycling know to give you a guide as to what you need. If you think about where a lot of the courses happen at the moment, so for example, Locho Meadows, Châtelherault, Knockburn Loch, you've got great venues with lots of terrain, lots of variety, and an obvious meeting point, and a classroom and toilets and somewhere nice to make a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, that kind of thing. So if you've got venues, then that can be really, really nice, and really nice to bring courses to you. And that leads on to the second point, and the dare I say the dirty words, bespoke courses. It can be really, really awesome to run a course for a specific club or a specific area, and often there's a familiarity and people know each other, and it can be really, really supportive. I'm going to put a request in for that, though. I'm going to, and this is kind of on behalf of as a tutor and also on behalf of Scottish Cycling. I would really encourage you to only go to Scottish Cycling and say, can we get a course on, if you absolutely have enough people to put the course on. Maddie gets put in a very, very difficult position because she then has to go to British Cycling to say, we've got these folk, can we put a course on? And then if that course falls down because of lack of people, so interest actually not becoming actual candidates, then that puts Maddie in a very difficult position, and British Cycling get very kind of reluctant to allow us to put bespoke courses on. So bespoke courses can be brilliant, can be really, really awesome, but please make sure that you've got enough people to make it happen. I shall be quiet. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, it's a really important point there. For those that read the review from this year's calendar, we have a couple of the courses that we did cancel were bespoke courses, just because it's quite tricky to get 8 people that can do 2 dates, you know, in consecutive weekends. So the way we've kind of been doing it at the moment is that we need the confirmed list of 8 names for the dates that we've decided. But yeah, it's an important consideration, and thank you for sharing that, Keith.
Liz Peacock.
Hi, sorry, just unmuting. So we've got a situation in South West where we need to get a lot of coaches qualified. We've got hardly any, and we have struggled, and this isn't because people haven't tried. I'd just like to say that, but I think at the moment we've managed to gain 1 level 1. And I think part of the problem is dates. Some of the courses are in the school holidays. We had some we've got some young people who are keen, but dates of courses are while they're still racing, or they're actually not racing, but they're on holiday because it's school holidays. So I don't know how the dates just didn't really seem to work very well. And the consecutive weekends is an interesting one as well, because actually it being on consecutive weekends has caused some people problems too. So if they work Saturdays, getting 2 Saturdays in a row off work is hard. I don't know the answer to this, but as volunteering to be the lead coach for the club and then taking on this responsibility, as I say, we've not really made a huge amount of progress, and it's just tricky getting dates and people and calendars together. But maybe some of the timings, I mean, our club want to get people through level 1, level 2 and discipline specific for mountain bike. That's what we want to do, but 1 level 1 so far isn't really getting us anywhere, and I don't know if there's any way there could be more flexibility. I know it's a horrible thing when you're running a big organization. I don't know the answer, but the feedback I've had is those things, the clashing with races, being in school holidays, and needing to be able to take 2 consecutive Saturdays out to do level 1.
Yeah,
you know,
that's really helpful to know. Thanks, Liz. All really good points, and I can absolutely understand them all. Hopefully that's the flexibility will be something that the new framework will potentially address. Having seen some rough outlines of what could be coming, I think that is something that BC have really kind of considered and lent into. So hopefully that will not solve but help some of those issues. But yeah, in the meantime, I understand, especially with the youth coaches, it can be challenging. So we'll do what we can where we can, but for the current framework, we're kind of restricted a little bit to the consecutive weekends. But yeah, definitely something that we'll bear in mind when planning the calendar around school holidays and exams and things as well. So thank you.
No other hands for now, Maddie.
Sorry?
No other hands for now.
No other hands?
Oh, Keith Stocker's back.
Oh.
I couldn't resist it. Just following on from Liz's point there, I'm going to probably be possibly slightly controversial. There is only 52 weekends in a year, and there's unfortunately at the moment there's only 2 days in a weekend. I'm voting for 3 or 4, but I think especially when and I have this with coaching, and I have this with coach education and coach development, right, of things, and is that because of how busy the calendar is, in particular with clashes with races, then I think at some point people have to choose, and that might be very controversial. But I think if people want to get on coach education programs and they want to develop as a coach, then that might mean at some point hanging up their racing shoes a little bit, because I would highly encourage and highly recommend all coaches to race in some way or other, because it's a brilliant way to develop. So yeah, not trying to be controversial, but just being mindful that actually sometimes people might just have to choose a wee bit.
Thanks for that one, Keith. Mark Conlon's got his hand up, mate.
Hello, probably more of a question than feedback. I'm based in Fife. I'm just wondering, is there like a regional coordinator that could help coordinate all the different clubs? So for example, I cycle with Dunfermline Cycling Club, and I also help out with the Meadies in Lochore. So I'm just wondering if I can work with somebody to coordinate communication across different clubs to try and fill either a bespoke course for one of the clubs, or pool 2 or 3 of them together and get a bespoke course run in Fife. Yeah,
absolutely. So Ruth Wright is the CDC for Tayside and Fife. Ruth is on the call tonight. So she will be able to do that for you. I don't know if you saw the email addresses at the start of the call, but I'll maybe go back to that at the end, so you can just take a picture of everyone's contact details there. But yeah, absolutely. Ruth is the person for that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ruth. I'll be in touch. Thank you.
Mark, I sent you Ruth's email address in the chat, so it should come through to you.
Oh, there you go.
Great.
Beat me to it, Fraser.
I think that's all hands down again, Mads.
Okay. Well, maybe something for everyone to consider then is the kind of last bullet point up in the presentation here, and clubs' aspirations. Is there any clubs on the call tonight that know that they have people that they want to put through discipline-specific courses next year? Because usually we only put on one of each discipline-specific course, apart from mountain bike, and we proposed to do 3 of those. We only did 2 this year because we had to cancel one. But again, we can kind of tailor this to demand a little bit. So if you absolutely know that your club wants to do a road DSU, please let us know and we can cater for those demand.
Rachel, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, we do have people who are wanting to do both mountain bike, cross, BMX and road DSU. So hopefully they'll be able to filter into the dates that become available, particularly as you said you're doing several MTB DSUs, aren't you? Looked at the dates for that, my apologies. But yeah, we should be able to help fill some of those, hopefully.
Perfect, that's good to know. Thanks, Rachel.
Keith Stocker's back.
Hi. Rachel, is that all the same coaches wanting to do all those different DSUs, or are there different people for different courses?
Different people for different courses.
Cool.
It's good. There are some DSUs within that who have other DSUs from previous, but it's not the same person wanting all the DSUs in one fell swoop.
Cool. I was hoping that would be the case. For reference on my question, everybody, it's I always encourage people when you're looking at a discipline to focus on with your coaching is to go initially with what you are most passionate, knowledgeable, keen for, as opposed to try and get in the full set. It's not one of those Trivial Pursuit counter things where you've got to try and put the pieces of cheese in. Yeah, it's about development. So go with what you want to do first.
Thanks, Keith. Pete from Thames got his hand up.
Yeah, thanks, folks. Over and above the open courses, obviously there's the potential option has been discussed for bespoke ones if you can get the numbers. Is there any benefit for yourselves to have some form of poll or log of who might be still looking for courses that clubs could fill in or complete, so that once the open ones are full or not, there could potentially be other open courses put on if the demand's there? Would that be feasible?
Yeah, that's a really good suggestion, actually, Pete. And that's not something we've done before, but yeah, that's probably something that we can do through the CDC team as well. What I would say is if courses do fill up, and that's kind of, to be honest, the position that we're in at the moment, all the courses really for the rest of the year are full. Please get in touch with your CDC, and they can feed that back to us as well. But I think, yeah, that would probably be a good way of gauging demand, kind of for the rest of the year, because as I mentioned earlier, we're aware that sometimes we've maybe front loaded the year a little bit, and that's possibly due to lack of capacity in the end of the year. But if we can even that out a bit and maybe get a couple of more courses on at the year end, then hopefully that'll be better for everyone. So yeah, thanks for that suggestion.
Thanks, Pete. William McDonald.
Hi. It's one of the questions. I've had a few discussions with British Cycling with this. It seems that once we become a level 3 coach, we just fall off the cliff. There's no further development. In my opinion, the level 3 coach has just started his learning journey. It's not completed the learning journey, but every year there is nothing put on the calendar to develop or further develop level 3 coaches. And I think we're still missing this out. British Cycling has missed it out. And now in Scottish Cycling, it's missed out again. I'm wondering if we're actually going to try and plug this gap. I know there's a certain person here called Craig who did put a few courses on a couple of years back in sports psychology. It was run with Sports Scotland. It was a really good course. But again, that seems to have just fallen off the cliff like everything else, whether it was the pandemic or level 3 coaches, because it's more individual work is just not a consideration of Scottish or British Cycling. I'm just wondering if we're going to have anything for us.
Yeah, thanks for that. We definitely have got CPD planned coming up in the next year or so. That will be from Craig, who's on the call tonight. So I'll maybe just invite Craig to answer that question a little bit more, if that's okay, Craig.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, William, how you doing? I guess the very natural question that you can imagine I'm going to ask is, what would you like? What area do you need, or would you like further development in?
I think there's so many advances in training and training modalities that, you know, once you get to a certain level, unless you go looking yourself, we're not getting anything feedback. We've got British Cycling developing elite athletes. We never get any feedback on anything. I know some of it will be secret, I get that, but we never get any aspect in how to make a track cyclist even better than your average track cyclist, you know, along that line. Anything like that, even working with power, understanding other things like heart rate variabilities, you know, all the other new stuff that comes into training, that I think that we should have a sort of feed out from the centre on a number of these things. To be exact, I could be quite personal and say that for me, it's probably going to advanced working with power, but to an advanced side of power, not the British Cycling course, because that was just really, I don't want to be too critical of it, but that was really too basic. But you need to move something a wee bit further on. There's loads of things. The psychology course was great, Craig. That Scottish Sports Scotland one, but there's not been much more along that line, if you know what I mean. And
yeah,
it's really that it feels that once you get to a level 3, your learning's finished. But in my opinion, it's really just started.
Yeah, no, thanks for raising it. So I guess what I'm hearing is looking for some development on I suppose training theory and working with power. So I can take that and I can go away and look at that. I think the biggest challenge here is the demand for this is really small. So it would have to we'd have to look at aligning demand and going out to a wider audience and trying to maybe even going across sport because there could be other sports such as triathlon, for example, that might want similar.
Yeah.
So leave it with me, and perhaps we can catch up at some point after this call.
No problem, Craig. Thanks.
Okay.
Rachel, I think you were next.
Hi, yeah, I was just going back a wee bit for level 2 DSUs. One of the things I see that there are 3 DSUs proposed for 2023. One's Dumfries, one's Aviemore, and one's Aberdeen. Is there any likelihood of anything being held more central belt? Because there are many mountain bike centres, and that could perhaps.
Was this the mountain bike ones, Rachel? Yeah.
Mountain bike DSUs,
yeah. Yeah, so I think we're proposing to possibly move the one from the northeast to a slightly more central area, just because that was one of the courses that did get cancelled this year due to lack of numbers. So we'll kind of, as Keith said, we're going to kind of look at venues and things as well, where's most appropriate. But that's something we've kind of considered. What do you think would be a good venue in the Central Belt for a mountain bike DSU?
Well, I mean, speaking purely for Glasgow, you've got Catkin, but there's the centre there. The Maureen Coach Centre is potential for facilities. But the other thing is, could you do anything with Pamela out at Endura Life Cycle Barn?
What was that last bit? Sorry.
Is there any possibility? I mean, would Pamela Barclay out at the Endura Life Cycle Barn, would she be still willing to host potentially? Because you've got an entire mountain biking facility with a centre, bikes, etc. there.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but that's certainly something that we can explore and find out. But yeah, thanks for those suggestions.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rachel. Gavin Baxter.
Hi there. I'm sorry, scrabbling for the unmute button there. I guess just following on from what William was saying a few moments ago, I would actually think I'd actually like to open up the kind of the coach CPD thing to not just being about level 3 coaches, but I think for all coaches, because in my opinion, the coach learning path never ends, and actually you could end up being qualified as level 2 or level 3 or whatever, level 1. You still need training and updating on an ongoing basis, and that to me appears as a bit of a it just doesn't appear to be there at the moment, unless club coaches take it upon themselves to basically pay for a private tutor to provide something else for them. And I guess I'd be asking that question is, and I appreciate it can very often be quite discipline specific. Therefore there probably isn't a single solution here, but I just wondered if there's an option or even a thought to maybe have some online sessions, that might even just be almost a discussion or a presentation by, some Scottish Cycling or British Cycling or private tutors who could put on some presentations or have some discussions about certain topics that are, at times through the week that might be, more convenient for volunteer coaches and so on. Because obviously weekend time can be pretty precious. If people are running training sessions anyway, then if they need to attend some CPD, and that can be an additional sort of time clash or consideration for them. So I just see this, I kind of coach climbing, rock climbing, and so I get a similar sort of thing coming in from Mountaineering Scotland, from mountain training and so on, who run literally monthly sessions. There's monthly sessions in all good regions of the UK for all coaches at all levels to go and run, rock climbing sessions, walking sessions, etc. And I literally don't see anything coming through from Scottish Cycling, and that's why, to me, as somebody who's, should say, multi-discipline coach, I kind of see a very clear divide there between what Scottish Cycling's offering and what Mountaineering Scotland and Mountain Training are offering on a mountaineering basis, and it's striking to me that there's a miss there. We're not continuing the training of coaches after they've become qualified.
Yeah.
Sorry, I slightly jumped in the soapbox there. I'll try and jump off it again.
No, that's absolutely fine. This is an open floor tonight. We want to hear everything and anything related. So no, thank you very much for sharing that point. That's certainly something we'll be taking into consideration, and I'm sure Craig as well will be making notes at the moment, and hopefully that's something that we can share out with the community soon. But yeah, I don't know, Craig, if there's anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I can share that we are now looking at more club and regional based CPD, pretty much as has been described, to support coaches at all levels. Obviously at Scottish Cycling we're a small team with a small amount of resources, so when we do certain initiatives that takes up a resource and leaves a gap elsewhere. But we're aware that this is a need and a desire, and we're starting to reach out to clubs already. There may be a few people on this call that are aware of that, and so yeah, you'll probably see some information coming very soon about this stuff.
Thanks, Craig. Appreciate that. It's good.
No problem.
Malcolm Grant.
Hey, can you hear me okay, Fraser?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if my camera's going to work. It was just to kind of feedback in. I know me and you have spoken about this through work. The work we did with the Tour of Britain in the past couple of weeks, we accessed support from the Regional Institute of Sport to bring in some of their coaches to do some of the schoolwork. They spoke quite in depth about some of the work that we're doing. With Finn Crockett there as well, with one of the coaches speaking about some of the work they do. I'm just listening to what people are saying. I know in the chat I mentioned the resources that Sport Scotland have already, which I appreciate are not specific enough in terms of what William was speaking about, in terms of that extra bit of information about what to do with power and using new resources in that way. I suppose the work that everybody's doing on this call is to try and develop young cyclists to progress through to the upper end, to be in working with the performance coaches, and that, whether it's the next Commonwealth cycle or Commonwealth cycles in the future, the information and knowledge is there. And I'm just speaking from experience in the past couple of weeks, having listened to the regional coaches coming in and speaking to science teachers and PE teachers and also pupils. If the information is there already and the knowledge is there, and I appreciate how busy they are, there's a resource there that can probably be tapped into. You know, I'm seeing people speaking about reading Training Peaks blogs or accessing information online. The information is probably there, and it's potentially just working as one team, if you like, that the coaches on the ground who are delivering whichever discipline it is are trying to obviously provide participation, but ultimately lead some of the kids through towards your direction. So I just wonder if, rather than, Craig having to go and do something bespoke, is there something within the performance framework that is part of that, almost like an outreach as part of the performance program, that there's some information provided as a package that could be potentially in the off season, it could be delivered in a package to the coaches in this call who need it, rather than to start from scratch.
That's really interesting, Malcolm. Thanks for sharing that. That's actually something myself I wasn't aware of. So that's good to know, and that's something that we can explore as well. Might be a good time as well to just point out our coach development Facebook group, which I think some of you are in, but if you're not, please feel free to join it. I'll maybe ask one of the members of staff to just link it in the chat here just now. But I believe in the past that has been used for kind of knowledge sharing and for flagging up other things that are maybe going on within the coaching environment. So if there's anything that comes along which you think could be of use to other coaches or things, please feel free to share it in that Facebook group. And as you say, we can kind of work more as a team and get people making the most of these opportunities when they come along.
I think it's just if you've got a young rider, Maddie, who is say 15, 16, and again I'm not you know, I'm not at the level of coaching at the moment where I'd be reading about training somebody in power, but there are so much information online, and how much of it is validated and accurate and actually has been tested is questionable. At least if it's coming direct from the performance team, then for any, you know, youth that's going to progress through into the pathway, it's surely a better idea that they start with the right information at the start, so that when they go through to working with the performance coaches, that they, you know, it's identical. They're following the same advice and guidance, and they've been using the same ideas, rather than a bespoke program off the internet or a bespoke program of a book. That, from a Scottish cycling point of view, it's aligned from start to finish.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, good point. Thanks for suggesting. I'll pick that up with our head of performance, David Somerville, as well, and see if that's something that we can get on the go as well. Because that would be efficient and helpful for lots of people, I think. So yeah, thanks.
Keith, got his hand up.
Just probably a request. I use social media, sometimes reluctantly. I think it's really key that it's a royal we don't rely upon Facebook and Insta to get all the information out. So I think it's worthwhile remembering there's loads of folk who are very, very much switched off by Facebook. So to make sure that we put all communications out as best we can through every channel that we've got, in particular, obviously, direct comms from the development officers through to the clubs, etc. I know I was speaking to a coach earlier today who wasn't aware of this meeting, and I couldn't find, maybe wrong, put my hand up here, I couldn't find reference to the meeting outside of social media.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Keith. Definitely something for us to be aware of. Just for the record, the meeting was shared through emails directly to our coaching database, and our CDCs emailed it out to all the clubs as well. So I'm not sure how that one's fallen through the gap, but it's a good point.
I thought you would have done, absolutely. But yeah, people, it's that horrible thing, isn't it? Whether people read their emails or read social media. Yeah, carrier pigeons and smoke signals.
That's the way to go. Yeah.
Okay, looks like we are out of hand, Maddie.
Out of hands. Oh, 3 minutes to spare. Look at that. Okay, well, if there's anything that you think of in the next few days or the next few weeks, please, by all means, still get in touch. This consultation doesn't just end tonight. You can email us on the contact details that we had earlier. I'll skip back to those in a minute, but also feel free to give me a phone anytime, have a bit more of a chat. If there's something that you maybe don't want to bring up in front of 30 other people tonight, totally fair enough. Always happy to pick up the phone. So yeah, the kind of next steps on this now, as on the screen, this feedback process kind of open till the end of the month or so. We will then start to build the calendar of coach education courses for next year. And this will be published and open for bookings for the first 6 months of 2023 in December. So as I say, that'll be a bit of a phased approach between the current framework and the new framework. So, but everything will be valid. Any course that you do in that time will absolutely stand. So no worries in that. And yes, as we get further updates from British Cycling and Sport Scotland on the framework and the subsidy, we will let you know as soon as we can, because we know this is really important information for you and your club members. Cool, so that brings us to the end of tonight. I know we've had opportunities for questions so far, but if you do have any final questions, now is the time to ask them. But yeah, other than that, just thanks very much for coming along, spending an hour on a Wednesday night. Really appreciate it, really appreciate your feedback, and we'll take it all on board and absolutely do what we can to make a calendar of coach education next year which works for everyone, and get as many coaches onto the pathway as possible. So yeah, I'll just open up one last time if anybody's got any questions or any final comments. Nothing. Okay, I'll just stop sharing my screen there. Perfect. Well, thank you all very much. And oh, I see I see William's got his hand raised.
Hi, just the way it's came out, it sounds that we're being quite critical of Scottish cycling and Scottish cycling staff. I just want to speak to the all. We're not. We all appreciate the jobs you all do. It's just that sometimes we don't get the opportunity to sort of raise our wee gripes, and that was all. It just sounded a wee bit critical if I was sitting on your side, but it definitely isn't any critical of any of the staff. And I just want to make that point. I think everybody will agree with that as well. So that was all.
That's cool. No, thank you very much. We appreciate that, and we welcome you all as critical friends. You keep us right, and you know, essentially at the end of the day, we're a membership body, so we want to do what's best for the membership. So yeah, appreciate that. Cool. I will stop recording this now, and yeah, thank you all for coming. I'll let you go.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you.